I'll tell you a secret. Getting ready to your interview as a product manager, this is not an easy task, even if you are a very experienced product manager. Welcome aboard, leaguers. Today on this stage, in this review session, we will review actual artifacts that have to do with interview preparation for product managers. We'll tell you all the secrets of what you should do, what you should avoid, and what are the little things that you should be aware of. And I'm not going to do this by myself. 3 Product League mentors are going to join me on this stage to review actual artifacts and to give you all their tips. Welcome aboard. My name is Maria Cassis. I'm the founder and general manager of Product League, and we are here to support you in becoming the best product manager you can be. Product League is an international mentoring program for product managers by product managers in 30 countries around the world, and we really want to get to know you much, much better. So please go ahead and in the chat, wherever it is that you watch us right now, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, let us know who you are, where you're from, and what is your biggest challenge or what is your biggest question when it comes to interview preparation for product managers. We really want to help you and to give you all the answers you need. So please go ahead and do so. And now it's time to meet our first speaker for today. Joining us live from Maryland, the United States, is Ashley DeGianelli, lead product manager at Meetup and Product League mentor. And I am so happy and excited to have you back on our stage. What's up, Ashley?
Hi, Maura. It's great. Twice in like 7 days.
You can tell I am excited.
It's great to be here. I'm always excited to be with the Product League.
You are wonderful. One of our veteran mentors and a veteran speaker on this stage as well. So it's so nice to have you back. Last week, we discussed promotions for product managers, somewhat of a juicy topic, if I may. And today it's all about interview preparation that may get you to the point where you need to know more about promotions. So it's all there in the preparation of product leaguers out there in becoming the best product managers they can be. Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us today. Can't wait to learn from you. And what do you say? Shall we meet Anastasia?
Yes, let's
do that. Say hello to Anastasia Laakmann, head of product at Bonial, Germany, and Product League mentor. Hello.
Hi, Maria. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
The pleasure is mine. I'm excited to have you here with us today. I'm excited to get to know you and your experience and your tips and tricks much, much better. And I'm sure that our audience is going to be benefited of that because you bring unique experience and it's going to be so relevant for our topic today. And I just can't wait to learn more from you and to see what is it that you're going to share with our audience. So you're based in Germany, and Rene, our next speaker, is also based in Germany. So what do you say? Shall we bring him to our stage?
Sure, let's do it.
Let's do that. And now get ready to learn from Rene Abuela, principal at Involved and Product League mentor. Hello, and welcome back to our stage.
Maria, nice to be here. Thanks for having me. It's been a while.
It's been a while indeed. And you are also one of our veteran mentors. And you're also a veteran on our stage. We have many topics that we discussed with you, from agile to other like e-commerce and so many things that were so brilliant. And now we are happy to have you back with us. And today, as you know, we're going to be discussing some interview preparations for product managers, also for experienced product managers. I think this is like the interesting part. It becomes easier, but it does not become easier, right? It's like we know what to expect, but yet there are so many challenges that we need to nail. So we're going to have the 3 of you Product League mentors here with me on the stage today. We are going to share many tips, many tricks. We are going to review actual artifacts, and we are going to do that with the help of our magnificent audience. So let's see who is here joining us. We have Barak joining us from Tel Aviv. Hello to you, Barak. We have Amanda from New Jersey. Hello to you. We have Alon from Tel Aviv as well. It's great to see everyone. Please keep the comments coming. Introduce yourself. Let us know what is your biggest challenge. Ask all the questions you have, because otherwise you won't get the answers that you really need. And these magnificent 3D Product League mentors are here to give you all these answers that you need. So please go ahead and use this opportunity. Now, what we're going to do today, aside of actually reviewing the artifacts, we're going to give the audience together the 10 commandments, what we like to call the 10 commandments of interview preparation for product managers. What we think you need to keep in mind when you're getting ready for your next interview. And I'm going to start with one of my own. And what I am here to share with you guys is that you really need to understand the company and research the company and the market before you go to the interview. Now, most of the times, people will say that this is for you to actually answer the questions that your interviewer is going to challenge you with. But I want to give you another perspective to think about. The best way for you to go to an interview, a product management interview, is when you break the interviewee part and you actually have a discussion of two peers, just two or more product professionals that are there to, talk product. This is what you want to create. When you really understand the product and the market and the organization, you can come up with questions, suggestions, wonders, or even just anecdotes that shift the whole conversation from an interview into a discussion of two peers. And this is exactly what you want to create. So this is my commitment to share with the league here. And Ashley, I know that you got 3 whole commandments of your own to share.
Absolutely. So my first commandment is really about understanding your potential employer and asking hard questions. I think people underestimate how much you can learn in an interview with someone. And it kind of lends itself to my other commandment too. You'll notice mine are very focused on individuals sort of seeking a fit. So I think it's really easy, especially in a hard market for tech, to want approval, to just want to finish your job process. But it needs to be a mutual fit. So even if you're great for the company may not be great for you. And you want an environment that's going to let you grow and challenge you in the right ways and not be something that you look back on and are like, how did I end up in this organization where I don't feel appreciated?
And we all know that a big, continue, Ashley. I just want to say that we all know that like a big concept of us being product professionals is the balance between long-term and short-term. And, nailing the interview and like getting the offer without thinking, like thoroughly thinking whether this is the right place for you. So you are compromising your long-term for the short-term.
Yes, exactly. I think there's so much that people tend to focus on that maybe doesn't matter in the long run, and they end up feeling stuck after a year, 2 years at an organization because they're not prepared for how that organization promotes people, and kind of goes into what we talked about last week too. And then my third and final commandment is there are always warning signs with an employer, good and bad, in terms of how they treat you during an interview process, how thoughtful they are, everything to, are they scheduling you at times where you said you were not available, or are they going above and beyond when you message your recruiter and say, I'm so sorry, I don't feel well, or I have a family situation? Are they making it proof positive that they're the kind of work environment you want that looks different for everybody? So you're the only one that can answer for yourself. But I would say you want to keep a mental tally of like, what you like and what you don't like about every company you're interviewing with, and don't be afraid to walk away from an interview process that's not serving you. I think not enough of us do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you already met Ashley on our stage before, you know that she's all about work life, whatever it is, balance and wellness. So this is a really good call for you guys to make sure that you keep not just your professional values in place, but also what like really makes you feel good and well in the place. And as Ashley said, there are always little things that we need to put our radar on when we go into interviews. Thank you so much, Ashley, for these 3 commandments. And Anastasia, are you ready?
Of course.
Let's do it.
My first commandment would be about the introduction pitch. In most of the interviews, the first question the recruiter or the team will ask is, tell me about yourself. And this is your moment to shine. This introduction pitch really gives you an opportunity to start on a high note and to make a positive overall experience for the whole interview slot. So be specific, be structured, be also genuine, be true to yourself. And what is very important, rehearse your pitch in advance. This will give you the confidence as well to come into the talk very strong.
Wise words.
Cool. So my second commandment is about your overall journey. And it goes a bit in the direction also was Ashley just mentioned. When you apply for the new role, it's not just about what are your learnings and what did you do in the past. It's also how it meets your future aspirations. What is your next step? What are the next things that you're going to do? Maybe in terms of the company structure or in terms of the specific product management skills that you would like to learn or you would like to practice. So look at yourself in a way as a product and see where this product has to develop in the future.
Couldn't agree more.
And my third final commandment goes into the reflection process. Make sure that you reflect on the questions that were asked during the interview and do it very close to the interview, while the interview impressions are still fresh and you still remember what was happening. This will give you a source of inspiration for your future rounds or for the interviews with other companies on what are all the potential questions. You can also reflect, were there any questions where it was particularly challenging to come up with the examples? So you can think about it, also rehearse maybe these situations, and this will set you for success for the next rounds of the interview.
Yeah, this is so important, right? I've been in some interviews where I was asked questions that caught me on the wrong foot, and especially those you need to review afterwards and say, okay, what happened there?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Anastasia. That was great. And now, last but definitely not least, Renee, are you ready to share your 3 commandments with us?
Yes. So with my first commandment, I would extend Maria's commandment actually, because research, etc. Yes, but what I learned is a good product interviewer would ask you, what do we do for earning our money? How do we do our business? So from researching the company, you really think about how to describe with your own words with what they are earning their money. And it's obvious sometimes, still you need to be able to describe it, but a lot of times, especially in B2B business or something, it's not obvious. Yeah? So this is what you really need to be sure to have written down and make sure that this is something you can answer.
Oh, I have a great tip for that I just learned before we go to Renee's next one. If it's a public company, if it's a public company, at least in the US, I'm not sure internationally, I imagine it's similar. Public companies outline this in their like quarterly filings with the SEC and on investor calls. And so you can sort of look those up, just Google the name of the company and their latest quarterly findings. You can even ask like ChatGPT, and it'll usually like bullet point it out for you in terms of like what they're targeting, what their future looks like, and that kind of gives you like a nice leg up on the research.
And this is the wonderful magic that happens when you bring 3 product lead mentors together. That was great. Thank you. And now we're moving on to the second commandment, Rene.
Yes. So my second commandment would be also think about what you don't like with the company or with the product experience you have with the products, because in a lot of interviews, everybody's like, oh, you're so great. This is so cool, blah, blah, blah. But it's not. Now, every company has flaws in the product or in the customer experience. So one of my interviews, I told them, hey, this was really bad. And I told them why. So you have to be able to tell them why. And they were really surprised that somebody finally told them what they are not doing good. So I was like, yeah, of course you're not doing everything good. Otherwise you would be, I don't know, Google or whatever, right?
And you wanted to hire me otherwise, right? There is no more work to be done if everything was perfect.
Yes. So, and the third one actually also comes a little bit to what Anastasia said. Authenticity is your most potent weapon in the arsenal, right? Be humble, be honest, be authentic, because an experienced interviewer will notice if you have learned something from your memory and just, press play on tape or whatever. I always get this if somebody is just answering by the book or something and it's not authentic.
Yep, that's correct. And we really want to get to know you when we call you on an interview. So please use this opportunity. Guys, this was awesome. I think these were like really, really good 10 commandments for the preparation of product managers for their interview. And now we are getting ready to review materials. The first material is going to be reviewed by you, Anastasia. And everyone who is watching us right now, you shall know that the materials, the commandments, everything is listed for you in the description of this event. So you don't need to take notes. You can just watch the recording afterward and click the links if you want to check something further. And now, Anastasia, the floor is yours. The first thing you are going to review is the known book, Cracking the Product Manager Interview by Gayle, Laakmann, McDowell, and Jackie Bavaro. I think everyone knows this book, but not everyone gets the opportunity to review it in our stage. But you did, Anastasia, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to share my impression of the book, also how it helped me to prepare in my past roles in the product management. So first of all, just to mention, the book was already written about 10 years ago. So it's quite established artifact in the market already. However, I would actually underline it's very impressive how the book is still relevant for quite a few aspects of the current market. And to begin with, if I would now use this book to prepare for my interview as a product manager, I would focus, first of all, as the first priority on the following aspects. So first of all, the book gives a very comprehensive overview of what the product management role is and how it can vary based on the company, what also the interview process can be like, especially in the big tech companies. And what I think was also very interesting for me back then, because I was transitioning from a non-product role into the product management, was actually how you can make this transition successful and how you can prepare yourself for this transition. Then what I also found very interesting in this book was actually the whole CV review section. And there are a lot of tips that are shared, how to structure your CV, how to make it prominent for the recruiters or for hiring manager, what will help you to stand out from all the applicants pool. And what I found actually the best, it's not just theory, but there are quite a few examples on before and after interviews, especially how to make your achievements to be quantifiable and also give this impression that you actually ship the products and you achieved very prominent results with this, regardless from which field you're coming from. And finally, there is a very great overview of the behavioral questions, and there are a lot of strategies broken down how to answer these questions. And this also is a great inspiration for your future preparation for the interview. And this is I think back then was also one of my key learnings from this book, are these preparation grid frameworks. It, I think, also can be applied not just for the product management role, but potentially other roles that are available there on the market. This preparation grid gives you a structured framework on how to prepare for the questions and gives you this structured breakdown on examples of the questions and gives you the opportunity to think about particular situations, how you can demonstrate these behavioral aspects of your journey. Also, I took this grid actually back then as inspiration in a bit different way. So I used this approach for tracking my interviews, for tracking what companies I applied for, what was the status of my application, what kind of questions I asked, what were my notes on these questions, who were the interviewers, what information they shared about the company, about the role. And with this information I was taken for every next step of my interview. And it also helped me to build this awareness of the fit for the company, the fit for the role, and what even the next questions can be. Actually, what I also wanted to underline, there are quite a few resources available also online for this book, and there are some frameworks on how to answer the case studies. Again, I think it's a great source of inspiration. And for example, this is something in the modern realities can be done with the Miro, for example, as a breakdown of the case, but different types of the case studies, how to answer them, what will be the approach step by step. Yeah, so I'm really encouraging everyone also to look into these online resources that's available. However,
I love how invested you are, Anastasia, that it's not just about reviewing the materials and being prepared, but also about finding like extra materials to share with our audience. You are a true mentor indeed.
Thanks a lot for these kind words. I think it would be too good to be true if it would be the only book, to be honest, like that can secure you a job. And now I would like to point out a couple of moments why actually this book might not get you a job in the product management and mislead you a bit on the journey. I think this book is really great for aspiring product management or the product management managers who are looking for their first or second role. What I found the book was lacking is the focus on the more senior roles. For example, there is not so much focus on the questions about product strategy or about product leadership. Also, though there are a lot of case studies that are pictured in the book, I would say some of them are already outdated, at least in my experience in the product management interviews for myself and also how I interview other product managers. For example, like coding questions, I would say there is not so much focus on it on the market anymore. However, there is more focus on collaboration, cross-functional collaboration. How are you motivating your engineering team? How are you working with your stakeholders? What about emotional intelligence in different situations? Also, remote working setup is a new reality since COVID. And we also have to take into account, and actually there are lots of questions that are coming up. Hey, how are you organizing your work if the team is distributed into different locations, if there is not always the place to meet? So I think these are all the aspects that needs to be taken into account in the realities of the modern world. So all in all, my summary would be, it's a great starting point. It's a great source for behavioral questions, CVs. However, if you want really this kind of overall preparation, I would also look for additional sources like blog articles, podcasts, or even communities to extend your experience.
Especially if this is not your first or second role, as you mentioned yourself. I agree with everything that you said. I actually wonder, and I invite everyone who's watching us right now to comment with their thought as well. How many of us actually read that book? Because if this was like a sensational book about 10 years ago, I have a copy. I'm here to admit that I've never read it, although I do have a hard copy. Renee and Ashley, what about you guys? Did you read it?
I don't like you. I did not read it, but I'm pretty sure I have a copy in this office.
Renee?
No, I haven't. No.
And Anastasia, did you read it before you got to review the book today?
Yes, I read it like a couple of years ago. And to be honest, I still, like, whenever I would look now for a role, I would maybe like review this kind of CV section just to refresh, or look for inspiration for behavioral questions, for example. However, of course, again, I would not rely on it as the only source at this point.
Yeah, and I love the way you're thinking about that, because it's not just about reviewing that, it's also about recognizing the things that are missing, which is a great deal of preparation, because you read something, you're like, hey, this is missing, I should keep this in mind and think about that. So you already gave us this roadmap of beyond the book and how to get ready for the interview. This was fantastic. Thank you so much, Anastasia. And Ashley, you are next, and you have something very interesting to review. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's do that. So what you are going to review is the AHA. The company has a blog, and they have an interview preparation template that we are now sharing on screen. Again, everything is shared in the details part of the session, so you guys don't need to spend any time looking for this online. And Ashley, I wonder what you have to share about this.
Yeah, so I think this is like a good start. So these are the kinds of questions you're definitely going to want to expect, and I think it's kind of nice to be able to read a question, and as someone preparing for interviews, figure out how to outline answers around it. I think what's missing is if you're leveraging this to help you prepare, it's not helping you get to a solid answer. So it's just the questions. And I think what you want to do really is structure your answer. So you want to make sure that you're not spending, and I'm 1,000% guilty of this if I'm not as prepared as I should be for answering a particular kind of question, like Renee has talked about. You don't want to spend 5 minutes on the context of a situation to the interviewer, right? You want to be able to help them understand a situation pretty quickly, but you want the majority of the focus to be on what did you do in that situation? How did you respond? And like, what was the end result? So you really want to be focused on your impact in navigating that situation. And I would also say, don't be afraid to use things that went terribly wrong. Like, we've all had situations where you're the reason a site goes down, or your team's responsible for some major issue getting released. And how you manage that is really insightful for a hiring manager. And it shows, one, that you've learned, and two, you can admit that you make mistakes.
Which is a big deal.
It's a huge deal, right? Like, we're product managers. We're not perfect. We're human. And so we need to be prepared to make mistakes and learn from them quickly and correct them. I think the thing that I don't love about these is I would want, as an interviewer, for someone to be thinking more through problems and like hypothetical situations. So I like a blend when I'm interviewing someone of what did you do in this kind of situation in the past, as well as a blend of like, hypothetically, if I dropped you into this situation and here's some context, how do you navigate that? I think that's really important, to be able to balance between your actual experience and hypothetically how you would handle something in a particular environment.
And also, what have you learned from? I hear myself twice. I don't know why. What have you learned from that experience that you had and the way you acted before? So yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, right, never be ashamed to say, I don't know, I've never been in this situation before, but my potential solution from my experience would be. Nobody can expect that you know everything and you have encountered every situation out there, right?
And let's be honest about that. Nobody loves the I know it all product manager. Like, there are so many scenarios out there. There are so many like different parts that are moving all the time, like economical stuff, and organizational aspects, and so many moving parts that nobody that comes and says I know it all will be welcome to come for the second part of the interview. So absolutely stick with Renee's advice here and just say I haven't been there in this situation, but I think that this is what I would have done if I was there in this case. Brilliant words. And Ashley, that was a really good review. I love how you looked at the overall aspect of this map that was shared for the interview process. And now we are moving on to another element to be shared by you, Anastasia. And we're going to present a very known blog post by Ken Norton. And here, guys, I'm convinced even, Ashley and Renee, that you're going to have a lot to share. So get ready, because it's not just about Anastasia. It's all about all of us here. It's going to be a product party, but Anastasia, I'm handing you the virtual mic. So go ahead and tell us what you think about this one.
So actually, to begin the review with, I just want to underline, when I read this article, I was actually inspired by the approach of the author when he rethought his original hiring way, and actually said that he learned a lot and he now would have done things differently. And he actually disagreed with some of the things that he wrote in the past, and he was heavily advocating in the past. I just thought that it's very inspiring on how you have to admit your past learnings and also present them, and being honest and saying, hey, this changed and this is why it's changed. But yeah, if we talk about the hiring on the other note, I think in general, it's, at least in my opinion, it provides quite solid approach on what is expected from the product management hiring, and provides some valuable points. I still believe we're looking for someone in product management role who has a proven track of the outcomes, who can prove that they ship the products, also who can lead by the influence, and also being able to manage various groups of the stakeholders without having direct authority on it. And also what I found interesting is that, yes, we as a hiring managers looking for someone who is thinking out of the box. And for example, from my experience, I remember the most the interviews where the product managers were there, and I was thinking, oh, hey, yeah, that's a great approach. Didn't potentially think about it. It's an interesting idea, and it builds completely different focus of the discussion. So don't be afraid to share the thoughts and to share some ideas that you might have during the case studies or during answering some questions, even if you feel like it's not fitting. Maybe one thing I would add on this article is hiring for diversity in company culture is also one of the important aspects that the companies will be looking for, and was not mentioned in this article. I think now there is a lot of focus on having the teams diverse, and also having this exchange of various backgrounds, various knowledge that the team members are bringing. However, also companies are looking for someone who fit in overall company culture, and can also prosper in this company culture and advocate for this company culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of hard, right? Because we're looking for this overall package of someone who will suit the company culture we aim to build, will have the right skills that we need for actually doing the work. And also we want to give opportunities, for the people who deserve that. And it's not always easy. So thank you very much for mentioning that, Anastasia. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Ashley, I have the feeling that you have something to add here. But I may be wrong.
I think I take
Talking about interview, I may be wrong.
No, you're not wrong. I think I take issue with some of his stances on things. Like, I personally believe the best product managers often don't come from super technical backgrounds. And the reason being for that is that depending on the specific role, the company, and like what's needed, sometimes that technical background gets in the way because they're already thinking through how to build something instead of what needs to be built, right? And so sometimes we have to push our engineering partners on what's, possible in order to get to an excellent product. Whereas, if you're super technical, I've just seen in the past PMs that are, super technical, brilliant, not come forward with the most forward-facing things because they're already telling themselves all the reasons why it'll be too hard to build. So I think there's
or
a
they
few
just
things
read a blog post about the new technology and they like really want to use it for the product, even if it does not
even if it doesn't
the
make any sense and the customer has no interest in it. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a balance. We should always be able to talk about the technology our product is built on. We should always be able to explain it to business partners who maybe don't understand things like limitations or constraints. But I just strongly disagree that it's a must-have. I think it's great, and depending on certain roles, you might need to be more technical than others, but having it as like a checkbox of does this person, have a super technical background, I don't see it as a value add personally necessarily, depending on what you're specifically working on.
Yeah, what I would put in the checkbox is that there is enough technical knowledge to challenge the engineers.
Exactly.
Yeah. You cannot be a product manager without any technical understanding. So you have to be able to understand the technology up to a certain level to challenge the decisions to see whether this fit or not, but you don't have to code or you don't have to, build cloud frameworks or whatever, but you have to understand technology. That's for sure.
Yeah, we all agree with you, Renee, on this one. And of course, Ashley. Renee, what are your thoughts on this blog post? How to hire a product manager?
Yeah, so actually, I agree with most of the things he said. But the funny thing is, what I rarely read, and also not in this article, is about attitude. Because whenever I hire, especially juniors, all I'm looking for is attitude, because this is something you cannot learn. You cannot learn every product. You cannot learn everything about being a product owner or product manager, or get to know some of the products. But what you cannot learn is attitude. So this is for me one of the most important thing I'm missing. But I think he's really more going into that experienced product manager here when it's about hiring. But for all of you outside who just started roles or whatever, attitude for me is the most important thing in hiring, because then I can rely on people, then I can trust people, and they are willing to go the extra mile if needed. Now, I'm very, let's say, suspicious if one of the first questions is, okay, how many days of holidays and what about this balance and here? Yeah, this comes later. I just want to see, okay, yeah, this person has the right attitude to become a product manager. So,
may I challenge you a little bit, Renee?
Sure.
Why do you think that attitude goes only into the hiring process of less experienced product managers?
No, it's
Because
not.
I think it goes all the way up to the CEO.
Absolutely. So if I have a very experienced product manager, but I think, okay, that is not the attitude anymore that I want to see, then of course I would not hire him more. No, but it's most important for juniors, because this is the foundation for learning the right attitude.
I very much agree with you. And I already challenged you, Renee, a little bit. So I want to challenge all of you together, Ashley, Anastasia, and Renee. And we just discussed Ashley, you touched a little bit upon that. The fact that some companies or some interviewers in certain companies tend to prefer product managers with technical background. And then some product managers meet themselves with the question. Actually, this is something that I hear so often from our mentees. Am I technical enough? Like the person, the interviewee, is asking himself, am I technical enough for this role? What do you think, as part of the interview preparation, on the emotional aspect of the preparation for interviewees out there, product managers? What do you think one should keep in mind if they find themselves struggling with this question when they are in the process of being interviewed. If someone is challenging them whether they are technical enough, if they read a description of like requirements that seems to be more of a developer than of a product manager, and they ask themselves, hey, but I have everything else aside of that. What do you think, guys?
I think, at least from my perspective, it's first of all very important to understand how technical you want to be. For example, if you read already a job description where lots of coding skills are required, and I also saw such ads, actual job ads for product managers with a product management title, then first of all, you have to evaluate, do you want even to learn it? Is it something that is interesting for you? This, I would say, is the first step. Then if you would like to learn it, I would say you see other requirements, you're really motivated, you feel like you will be fit overall, just try it, apply it, also explain why you're excited about learning skills. As Renee mentioned, don't be shy to say, oh yeah, maybe I don't have this particular coding skills. However, I have experience of potentially collaborating with the engineering team. I know how to motivate it. I know how to ask the questions, and I'm super motivated to learn it. And this would be my next steps on how I can learn it and how I can then provide the productive collaboration with the team. And I think this will be already a very valuable input during the interview.
Very good. Thank you very much, Anastasia. Ashley, Renee, what do you think?
I think if you're in an interview situation and someone's trying to ask you technical questions about your product and you don't understand, and they think that means you're not technical enough, something I've tried in the past, and it works. It depends on your interviewer, right? It depends if you've broken past it being like them volleying questions at you, if you've been able to create a conversation. Something that's worked for me is like, you know what, this project was, 4 years ago that we're talking through. The details really aren't so crisp for me right now. What I would love to do instead, to give you a sense of my technical abilities, is have you explain something that's really complicated in your product. And let's see if I can translate it for you and ask the right questions to be able to explain how it works. Because I think that's really what we need to do as product managers, to most of the time, right? Depending on the job description, the majority of the time it's, can you translate and speak the team's language, right? Can you speak to your engineering team in the language that they need and be able to ask the right questions and challenge them, like Renee talked about earlier? And can you, in turn, turn that around and take something that's really complicated and explain it to anyone in the business in a way that makes sense and is easy to digest? Because that's really the crux of being a product manager, right? Is to translate between business and engineering and our customers and design, right? And get everyone talking about problems in the same way, so that we can craft the right solution. So I view that as, if you can flip it and just say, you know what, the details are fuzzy for me on this, but I know I'm technical enough. I don't feel like I'm doing a great job right now explaining that. Could we try this way instead? Sometimes they'll be like, no, and that's fine. Count that as a flag. And if they're willing to, right, that shows that they understand that this is a two-way process. It shouldn't just be them asking you questions and trying to trip you up. It should be something where, they want to get a good understanding of who you are and how you work, and not just get checks on a checkbox.
That goes back to one of your commandments about turning the discussion into a mutual fit test, like understanding how the other person can deal with your personality, and how you two create something that is bigger than just an interview. So love that. And I love the tip. So thank you very much, Ashley. Renee, what do you think?
Yes. So, first of all, it starts from the product, right? So if you deal with the very complicated, technical, high security, whatever product, you have to be technical. But you know this from the first hand, right? So you have to manage your expectations. If you want to go really managing a very technical product, you have to be technical. If it's more e-commerce, customer facing, maybe you don't. But I would emphasize on what Anastasia said. You have to be confident on the level you want to dig into technology. And you have to be confident to say, sorry, I'm not a technical guy. I'm not interested in code. I have enough technical knowledge to talk to the guys, but this is where my willingness also ends to go more technical into the product. If this is necessary, I'm not your person. This is also something you can say. So have a look from the product side, how technical it is and what requirements there would be to you as the PM of that product, and then be aware of how much, let's say, how deep you are willing to go into technology.
Know your own roadmap.
High level is enough. If you are able to building good business architectures and understand the technology, that's all that is required, unless it's a real technical product, which there are a lot out there, right?
That's correct. Know your own roadmap. That's always a good tip. Thank you very much, Renee, for that. Thank you very much, all of you. And guys, now we are moving on to discuss another artifact. But before we do that, I want to remind everyone in the audience that, well, we all know how the algorithm works. So please show us some product love and like, comment, share, and subscribe to us wherever it is that you watch us right now, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I have to do that, Ashley. I have to remind them that we know how the algorithm works, and please show us some product love in return for this session, because otherwise other people won't know about this session, about these brilliant tips that are being shared here. So now we are ready for you, Renee, to discuss, to review something very interesting, the notion of interview coaching.
Yeah.
So there are many websites, services, whatever it is that you will call it out there, that offer the service of interview coaching. And I really want to know, what do you think about those?
Yeah, of course. So there are a lot of offers out there, as you said, and we already heard there's your biggest value is experience, rehearsal, because you will some point in time get into routine, right? Especially as when you haven't been interviewed for a long time, you're nervous and maybe you don't know. So preparation is always good. So that's for sure. Also that you can hire different partners for interviews with different skills. You can look out, okay, I'm going more in a technical role or more in an e-com role or whatever role this is, that you have all those filters with those experienced guys. So of course this can help. On the other hand, you need to determine whether you think it's worth it, because there are other, of course, formats like product league, mentoring. You have other guys in your LinkedIn profile, or colleagues from work, or partners in life, or whoever you can maybe ask if they want to do that with you. So you have other sources of interviews, but of course, those guys are highly trained in doing interviews. So they can also, let's say, ask you some tricky questions, and prepare you for maybe not everyday questions, because every interview normally is composed out of some typical questions, you can really good prepare for, and then some tricky questions, and then maybe some unexpected questions, right? And for sure, rehearsal is really good. What I would say you need to be careful about is this hype around Meta and Google and Facebook, whatever. It looks to me a little bit like conformity, right? So you are highly trained to answer the questions in a way they want to hear them, and those guys are not stupid as well. So they will find out if you are really saying what you mean or if you train the answer, right? So that is something you really need to be cautious about if you go into this kind of page, for example, where I was looking at, where you have a lot of product managers coming from the top-notch product management companies, but there is a reason why I'm not there anymore, right? Also think about that. Sorry for being a little bit picky, but you have to be really. And it's the same with mentoring and coaching, right? You have to find the right person for you to train the interviews with. Yeah. So and this is what I want. What might our thoughts about those platforms? It helps for sure. Yeah. Training helps, but there are some downsides you need to be aware of before you spend this amount of money.
Absolutely. And time.
And time.
All resources. Yeah.
But time you have to spend anyway with your friends or your mentors or colleagues to train. But it's just the way, find the right person where you practice interviews with.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Renee. Ashley, you're going to review something similar yet very, very different, the notion of mock interviews.
I also have a spicy take on this, I think, similar to Renee.
I brought you here.
I also agree with everything Renee said about, interview coaches. Same with mock interviews. I find it deeply problematic. A whole industry spinning up to get jobs at Google and Meta, in particular. I think it's worrisome because it's like your SATs, right? It's like the pay-to-play situation, and it stops being about talent and starts being about how much money can you afford to spend on training yourself to think the way this company expects you to, and answer and respond in the way that they expect you to, in a way that comes across as genuine to yourself. That said, I think mock interviews can be good. If you're paired with someone, I think there's a couple things. One, if you're pairing with a peer, chances are, I don't know how much, especially if you're more junior, how much interviewing either of you has done sitting on the other side of the table. And so they may not know what it's like to be interviewing for a position and have specific ideas in your head around what you're looking for and what you want to see, right? So it's not asking the questions and seeing if it's a well-formulated answer. It's seeing if it's a well-formulated answer for a specific role within an organization that already exists. So that's the first thing. I think it can be helpful if you have someone who's been a hiring manager before and they're spending time with you. I don't love anything that charges you money to have access to these people. You already have a network on LinkedIn or through Product League. Like, reach out to people. Don't be shy on getting feedback, and especially asking people what it is that you want, right? Because I think one of the things I see a lot in Product League with my mentees is people who want to go from being a product manager to a senior product manager, and those interviews tend to be very different. I'm looking for different things. I'm still looking for similar skill sets, right? But I'm looking for a different depth of knowledge to come across, as well as like scope of responsibility. And lastly, I think the thing I find worrisome is I don't think mock interviews that are an hour are even worth your time. And here's why, right? If I'm really doing a product sense interview at most companies, especially if they're following the formula of Meta or Google or any of the other, big tech companies, that interview is like 30 minutes, right? You get 30 minutes to take them through your case, how you would think about it, the questions you would ask, assumptions you're making, and sort of how you narrow down the segment and the market. If you're not doing that in your mock interviews, you're still not going to feel prepared when that's the expectation on the other side. So you would need like 90 minutes. I also feel like it's a little weird to go from being in the interviewer position and switching in the same context in the same meeting to interviewing, right? I think however you start is going to create this position of this person's giving me feedback. What I find helpful personally is partnering with someone that you trust, who maybe has worked with you or hasn't worked with you in a while, but you've stayed in touch, and they can give you feedback and you say, this is the kind of role I'm looking for. This is how I want to come across. And I personally like feedback after every question, right? Like, was I talking too long? Was I not concise enough? Was I rambling a little bit? Did my examples make sense? Did I get them to understand the context around a situation that I'm trying to use as an example? And the reason for that is we have short memories. We really do. And so you want that feedback loop in real time, and to keep crafting it. So my issue with mock interviews is that it's a lot of talking before you're going to change feedback or talk through it. So I would say if you're going to practice, do it with someone you trust, who is somewhere you want to be, like to Renee's point, right? You want to be careful about who you're entrusting. So that's really my thoughts on this. I think it's helpful if you're someone who wants to think through it more and practice, because it does take several interviews right before you get into a groove and feel like you know how to tell your story and present yourself really well.
I love something that you all guys mentioned, all of you, the fact that we still want to keep the product mojo of the candidates in the interviews and like really see the way that people think and not just put them in the box of like, I nailed this question by the mock interview of Google or Meta or whatever, because it's not just about answering the question per se, it's about seeing how you answer the question. Or even if you get just to the 90% of answering the question and solving the problem, but you do it in a way that let us know how you bring your own interesting and valuable experience into our organization, this is where the magic happens. So yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, Ashley. And now we are with the last piece, artifact for us to watch and to review. 1 second, because this one is for you, Renee. And here it is. We are going, hey, it's not we, it's you're going to review 11 revealing product manager interview questions. This is a post by ProductPlan.
Yes.
And you're going to tell us what you think about these questions.
So you will find a lot of resources like this out there. The right questions, whatever. And I don't have to go into every single question here. So if you stay up a little bit, what I like is this overview, this one here. Strategic thinking, business acumen, and so on and so on. So as I said before, I believe you will find some of those questions in every interview, which you can prepare. Like, for example, as a product manager, very usual question is how you prioritize and how you handle different situation prioritization, how you communicate your roadmap, how you do research, right? These kind of questions. So for those, as they are in every interview, I believe you can prepare very well, just, being authentic from how you actually did it and what worked and what not. So there are quite some good questions here, but there are also, at least now this is personal opinion, right? Some bad, where I would say there is an example here for Sell Me the Pen of the Wolf of Wall Street. This is something I really hate, actually. I don't need somebody who can sell me a pen. I need somebody who can excite people for the product and for the roadmap and whatever. But this is something I really don't like, but this is a personal thing.
I'm right there with you, and I don't care it's personal. We brought you here to tell us your opinions, Renee.
Yeah, so there are some cliche questions also in here, which I hope no hiring manager is asking anymore, like, give me your strength and weakness. Oh, Jesus. This is one of the worst questions I heard in interviews in the past, but thank God I haven't heard them in a long time. Yeah. And there are some things around here a bit. So it's a different thing if you talk about your failures and say, hey, this was really bad. This is what I learned from that. But, overall, I think you have to look, every interview starts for me with a job description. If you are somehow experienced a little bit, you will read from the job description between the lines what they're actually looking for. If it's more like, okay, handling tasks or handling features, most likely this is not really product led, for example. So this is more backlog management instead of really doing product work. And you can find from the words they use and from the descriptions of the job what you're looking for, and then from there, doing the research. Start the preparation of your interview. Pick some questions where you think they will come for sure, and then go from there. Because you can prepare to some extent, and you should. That's for sure, but most likely something unexpected would happen where your creativity is really needed. For example, I was asked in one interview, how big is the angle of the 12 o'clock, dial of the clock when it's 20 past 3? And I should come up with some derivation of how I would, let's say, calculate the angle of the long sign or whatever you call it on the dial. And it took me completely off the wrong foot, and I gave the worst answer you can get. So bad for me, but it shows that you cannot train everything. Yeah, sometimes you have to be creative and trust your instincts and trust your feelings. So I like that there's a lot of resources out there, and you can use that for preparation. But also, again, switch on your brain and see, okay, is this really something I should do? Yeah, for example, like product management, the first question, get a common understanding of what product management is. Yeah, you can do that if you want to do product management and the job posting may indicate something else, then you can ask this question. But normally, if you go to a product-led company, this is something that should not be some questions, right? So, and overall, as I said, just common sense helps a lot in interviews. Be honest, be humble.
Product management. Yeah, common sense, absolutely. And Renee, I love the way you call all the viewers to have some critic minds when they see all the materials online, because there are so many materials out there as for preparation for product management interviews, and one can find themselves very easily overwhelmed by the amount of materials. And you're here saying, it's good that there are materials out there, but make sure that you take only the good parts out of that, and you don't just copy paste every resource and every advice that is being shared.
Yes. So also, if you can see here, the second question, right? Also, one of these really bad questions is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Yeah. I have trouble with my product managers for like a quarterly, let's say, goal negotiation, because it's so fast, everything, right? So also, this is a question so I'm not a big fan of, because you don't know what happened in 5 years. You can say, hey, I wanted to create some impact, I wanted to do what I love, these kind of things. But in 5 years, what should I say? Hey, Maria, I want your job as the head of product. Oh, yeah, great. Yeah. Although this is maybe your agenda, but this is something you cannot say in an interview.
And then I might push you out of the room. But yeah, this is a very interesting one. And I totally agree with you, Renee, because no one knows what the future brings in 5 years from now. Also, like, not professional aspects of life. You can't really know, and you don't know what will be your preferences in 2 or 3 years from now. You may choose like a different path, because other things will be more important to you.
Yeah, especially you don't know, for example, if you can be good in leading people. This is something you can learn. Yeah, but saying like, okay, I want to become a team leader or a head of product, when you never led somebody, from where would you know if this is really something you should do, right? So what I always like when I ask this kind of questions is when somebody tells me, hey, I really would love to leave my blueprint in something where they connect my name to that specific product or achievement. This is a good answer. But let me do just one more remark here on the questions. What it can help is, if you read in those resources questions where you don't have an answer to, then think about potential answers. Even if this is something you may not experience, but it can help you prepare yourself for if this question would come, saying, okay, again, I haven't been in the situation yet, but I was thinking about that I would do this. Yeah, so these kind of resources with the questions can help you preparing in for something you haven't experienced yet. So this is also something I like about those resources with the questions.
Super important. Thank you very much for this super important points, Renee. And now we have time for one question only. So we're going to take one question from the audience. This one comes from Barak, and he's asking, my biggest challenge is the product sense question, but it becomes better and better once I practice this type of question when I'm doing simulation interviews with my colleagues. What are your tips, guys, for the product sense questions?
I don't know what the product sense question is, to be honest, what he means.
How will you deal with specific scenarios when it's not about the actual answer that you're going to give the interviewer, but about seeing how you think about the product as an overall, how you take into consideration the business aspects, the design, the tech, the budget, stuff like that.
Okay.
Ashley, Anastasia, any thoughts about that? Product sense.
I think product sense questions can be challenging. I see them most used in larger companies or companies that are emulating, right, like Meta and Google and like their interview processes. I find it helpful as a hiring manager if you can translate what you're trying to do in a product sense hypothetical situation to helping me understand how you've defined something you've done so that you can sort of leverage that same thinking in behavioral interview questions. I find most often behavioral interview questions are where most companies go. But I think the case studies really want you to use a framework and really get to a clear, concise answer that's easy to follow, right? This is all about like showing your work like you're back in school and you get, credit not for the final answer, but rather all of your work being able to be understood by the person who's interviewing you.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Anastasia?
Yeah, just to add from my side, I think what Ashley mentioned is a framework is very important. So try to break this problem solving questions. It's usually some problem solving case study, which trains the sense into the high level steps that you would normally follow, for example, in discovering of your initiatives or discovering your problems. For example, something like Double Diamond framework or other frameworks, how to approach this identification of the problem, bring it into the steps. Also, feel free to write down the steps for the future and try to run it through potentially even some cases you worked on already. Try also, I think it's a great approach also to have this kind of brainstorming sessions with the colleagues or have someone you can that can initially help you to prepare for these questions. Feel free to run it, see how it fits, and then you will feel more prepared in coming into the actual interviews, having this approach already developed by yourself.
I highly agree. Thank you very much, Anastasia. Renee, what do you think? What should one keep in mind when they go into these interviews?
As you could guess by my initial question, asking what product sense actually is, I cannot add something practical. So I
actually think you can add a lot. And I think what you're saying, if I may take the lead here, is that we don't need to be afraid of this schematic way or structure of interview, the American way, the Google way, the Meta way, where we have like the product sense question, and we have the technical question, and we have that, and we have that. We need to make sure that we understand what the challenger is, and we need to make sure that, as you said before, we make things to be clear, and that we just use our common sense, not just product sense, because at the end, product sense is common sense, isn't it?
If it means what does make sense in that product, or does the product make sense for a user or something, then okay, then maybe I just don't know these kind of let's say term, yeah. But and we talked a lot about also be prepared of what you don't like and why, yeah. What you would make different if you could able to change something and these kind of things. So if you need to put this into a specific framework for those kind of Google and Meta interviews, then it's good that you know the frameworks. But as you say, most likely it's also common sense, because you're a user. And this is also something maybe as a last tip for some juniors, right? Or PO or PM roles. If you're being asked, okay, here is what you do with a product, what would you change? A lot of people freak out and say, I don't have experience. They have, because they have experience most likely as a user. So what they only thing they can do is transfer from their own experience into the question. Maybe this also helps.
Absolutely. Absolutely that. And now, guys, we really have to wrap up this session. But before, I want to challenge you just a little bit. We're going to do this very, very shortly. Please choose the one thing that you want everyone in the audience to remember from this session going into preparing it to their next interview. Hopefully, this is going to be a really good one for everyone who is watching us right now. I will start. But actually, I'm going to steal this one from you, Renee. And the one thing I want everyone to remember is that the preparation starts at the second you're reading the description. At the second you're reading the job description, this is where the preparation starts, by you getting to know the company, getting to know the culture of the company, how do they do things, and this is where the interaction starts. So this is my one thing that I want everyone to remember. Do you have one to share? Yes.
Yeah, I think
remember.
I think for me, you know me, Moira, I'm all about like work-life balance and integration and being proud and happy with where you're working. You know, we spend a lot of time at work. So for me, the main thing I want people to think about is this going to serve me in my life right now? Your goals over time change, like we were just talking about, what you want, what you expect. You should think about what it is your goal is in your personal life as well as your professional life in the next year, 2 years. Let's be honest, it's rare for product managers to stay in an organization for 4+ years anymore. That's pretty rare. So you really want to think about, what am I focused on professionally in the next couple of years? What are the goals I want to achieve? And what do I want to achieve in my personal life? And will this company allow me to do both? Right? Because we live in an age where I think we all want to have it all. And that looks different for everybody. So that's what I would want people to take away.
Wise words. Thank you very much, Ashley. Renee, the one thing that you would like everyone to remember from this session?
The one thing is be authentic and show your passion.
Anastasia.
I would mention the following. Be brave, be ambitious, and also don't get discouraged from applying if you feel like it's not 100% fit. I think we talked a lot about preparation today, and it seems very overwhelming. And it also seems like a lot of time that has to be invested. There are so many types of the questions. It feels like you never can be actually 100% prepared for the interview. And I think it's true. There might be always this kind of spontaneous moment where you don't know the answer. So just go for it. If it's your inspiration, it's worth trying it out.
And you've got the whole league to back you up here. So absolutely. Thank you very much. I had the best time, guys, having you on our floor. Anastasia Lomakina, Renee Abuela, and Ashley DeGianelli. Thank you so much for sharing the tips, the tricks, the thoughts, the experiences, the everything that will prepare our leaguers out there to their next interview as product managers. I can't wait to have you again on this stage. I hope it was fun for you. Fantastic. Nice. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining and watching, and have a fantastic day ahead. Bye-bye, everyone.